Egypt in the First World War, strategic occupation, Ottoman hostility, and the rise of nationalism. The First World War, 1914 to 1918, marked a pivotal chapter in Egyptian history, reshaping the country's political status, deepening colonial control, and sowing the seeds of nationalist resistance. Though Egypt was not a belligerent in the traditional sense, its strategic position, particularly the presence of the Suez Canal, made it a vital asset to the British Empire. Throughout the war, Egypt served as both a logistical hub and a battleground, caught between the declining Ottoman Empire and the rising demands of Egyptian self-determination. British control and the end of Ottoman sovereignty. Prior to 1914, Egypt existed in a unique political state. It was nominally a province of the Ottoman Empire, yet in reality under British occupation since 1882. The British had intervened to suppress the nationalist revolt led by Ahmed Urabi and gradually established de facto control over Egyptian administration, finances, and foreign affairs. Nonetheless, the ruling Khedive still technically represented Ottoman authority. When the Ottoman Empire entered the war on the side of the Central Powers in October 1914, Britain acted decisively to sever Egypt's last ties to Istanbul. In December 1914, Britain declared Egypt a formal protectorate, deposing the pro-Ottoman Khedive Abbas II Hilmi and installing Hussein Kamel as the newly styled Sultan of Egypt. This act effectively ended 4 centuries of Ottoman suzerainty and entrenched British dominance over the country's governance and security. Egypt as a strategic theater and sites of conflict. Egypt's location and infrastructure made a cornerstone of British military strategy. The Suez Canal, in particular, was indispensable to Britain's imperial lifeline, connecting the Mediterranean to the Red Sea and ensuring rapid maritime access to India and the broader British Empire. The canal was therefore a prime military objective for the Ottoman forces, who sought to disrupt British logistics and reassert control over a former province. This strategic significance brought the war directly onto Egyptian soil. In February 1915, Ottoman troops launched the First Suez Offensive, marching through the Sinai Desert in an attempt to attack the canal. The Ottomans deployed around 20,000 troops in an ambitious attempt to seize the Suez Canal. However, the offensive was poorly executed, hindered by logistical challenges and the harsh desert terrain. British and colonial forces successfully repelled the assault at Ismailia, marking one of the few direct military engagements within Egypt during the war. Further clashes occurred in the Sinai Peninsula throughout the war years, as British forces pushed eastward in a campaign that would culminate in the Palestine and Syria fronts under General Edmund Allenby. While major battles were largely confined to Egypt's eastern desert and border regions, the broader effects of the war permeated the entire country. Egypt became a vast military staging ground for campaigns in the Middle East. The British requisitioned land, buildings, and resources, turning the country into an extended arm of the imperial war machine. In addition to land-based conflict, Egypt's proximity to critical maritime routes made its coastal waters strategically vulnerable. The eastern Mediterranean saw increased activity by German U-boats, which targeted Allied merchant and military vessels near Egyptian ports. Though Egypt did not witness large-scale naval battles, the threat of submarine warfare disrupted shipping and supply lines, prompting the British to enhance naval patrols and escort systems. The port city of Alexandria emerged as a key naval base of the British Royal Navy, serving as a hub for refueling, repairs, hospital ships, and troop movements. From Alexandria, naval forces coordinated anti-submarine efforts and supported operations across the Mediterranean and Red Sea, reinforcing Egypt's vital role in maintaining Allied maritime supremacy. The burden of war in Egyptian society. The war had a profound and often detrimental impact on Egyptian society. The British imposed martial law, suppressed dissent, and mobilized Egypt's resources to support the war effort. One of the most controversial policies was the creation of the Egyptian Labor Corps, which conscripted over 100,000 Egyptian men to serve in logistical and non-combatant roles across various theaters, including Gallipoli, Mesopotamia, and the Western Front. Though officially labeled as volunteers, many were coerced or forced into service, particularly from rural areas. These added more to the hardships of the people. Simultaneously, the war effort strained Egypt's economy. Food prices rose sharply due to inflation and military requisitions, while taxation increased to meet British demands. The working and peasant classes bore the brunt of these pressures, while segments of the elite enriched themselves through contracts and cooperation with British authorities. This growing inequality further alienated the masses and undermined trust in both the colonial regime and the local ruling establishment. Nationalism and the post-war crisis. Despite British promises of post-war reform, the end of World War I did not bring greater autonomy to Egypt. In fact, wartime repression and the continued presence of British forces fueled popular resentment. This discontent erupted in the 1919 Egyptian Revolution, a nationwide uprising led by Saad Zaghloul and the WAF Party, who demanded full independence and Egyptian representation at the Paris Peace Conference. British forces responded with arrests, violence, and martial law, but the uprising proved impossible to ignore. Though Britain did not immediately relinquish control, the revolution forced concessions. In 1922, the British government unilaterally declared Egypt independent and in protectorate and establishing the Kingdom of Egypt under King Fuad I. However, Britain retained control over key domains, including defense, foreign affairs, and the Suez Canal, maintaining a dominant role in Egyptian affairs for decades to come. Conclusion. World War I was a turning point in modern Egyptian history. It ended centuries of nominal Ottoman control and solidified Egypt's position as a linchpin of British imperial strategy. The war brought conflict to Egyptian soil, exploited its people and resources, and intensified colonial repression. Yet it also galvanized a new generation of Egyptian nationalists who would fight to reclaim sovereignty in the years ahead. The contradictions of Egypt's role as both a strategic asset and a colonized people laid the groundwork for the revolutionary movements that would define the nation's 20th century trajectory. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more content like this.